Unveiling the Secret Charms of Rural Japan's Hidden Towns. Narrated by Kirsten Churcher. Prologue. Deep in the mountains of rural Japan, where the air was sweet with the scent of cherry blossoms and the sound of running water was ever present, lay a mystical world hidden from the prying eyes of the modern world. It was a realm where tradition and nature entwined like the branches of ancient trees, where the essence of the land was woven into the fabric of daily life. In the heart of this mystical world, nestled between the misty peaks of Mount Fuji and the serene waters of Lake Biwa, stood the Kiyomizu Ryokan Nizu, Ryokan Theia, traditional Japanese inn shrouded in mystery. For generations, travelers from far and wide had ventured to this secluded haven, seeking solace in its tranquil atmosphere and the wisdom of its enigmatic proprietor, the venerable Oto-san. As the seasons changed, the ryokan's courtyard came alive with the colors and aromas of the local cuisine. In the spring, the air was filled with the sweet fragrance of pickled plums and the soft chirping of birds as they feasted on the bounty of the surrounding forests. In the summer, the sound of sizzling yakitori wafted from the charcoal grills, enticing guests to partake in the savory delights of the region. In the autumn, the rustling of leaves beneath the feet signaled the arrival of the harvest season, and the ryokan's kitchen was filled with the rich aromas of roasted sweet potatoes and steaming bowls of miso soup. And in the winter, the warmth of the onsen and the soft glow of lanterns beckoned weary travelers to rest and rejuvenate by the fire. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the ryokan's thatched roofs, the onsen's wooden gates swung open, inviting guests to indulge in the restorative powers of the hot springs. The water, said to possess mystical properties, flowed smoothly over river rocks, creating a soothing melody that harmonized with the gentle lapping of the waves against the shore. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, the onsen's wooden baths became a haven of tranquility, where weary souls could wash away the troubles of the day and surrender to the healing energy of the land. Throughout the year, the ryokan and its surroundings underwent a transformation, as if the very essence of the land was awakening to the rhythms of the seasons. In the spring, the first tender shoots of bamboo pushed their way through the earth, announcing the arrival of new life. In the summer, the lush green forests gave way to the vibrant hues of autumn, as the maple leaves turned golden and the air was filled with the sweet scent of ripe persimmons. And in the winter, the snow-covered peaks of Mount Fuji stood sentinel, guarding the secrets of the mystical world below. As the seasons passed, the Kiyomizu Ryokan remained a constant, a beacon of tranquility in an ever-changing world. And yet, whispers began to circulate among the locals of a mysterious path that wound its way through the mountains, a path said to lead to hidden temples, ancient forests, and forgotten villages. The path was rumored to be guarded by enigmatic creatures who possessed secrets and wisdom beyond the understanding of mortal men. And it was said that those who followed the path would be rewarded with a glimpse into the mystical world that lay hidden beneath the surface of rural Japan. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the ryokan in a warm golden light, the whispers grew louder, beckoning travelers to embark on a journey through the whispering path, to discover the secrets hidden within the mystical world of rural Japan. Chapter 1. The Journey Begins. As I stepped off the train in Tokyo's Shinjuku station, the cacophony of sounds and lights assaulted my senses. The city's frenetic energy was a far cry from the peaceful, serene world I had left behind. I took a deep breath, the familiar scent of smoke and exhaust fumes wafting into my nostrils. This was it, the end of an era. I was leaving behind the only home I had ever known to embark on a journey that would take me to the very heart of rural Japan. I made my way through the crowded station, weaving past commuters rushing to catch their trains. My mind wandered back to the conversations I had with my friends and family, all of whom had urged me to take this leap. "You need to get out of the city," they said. "You need to experience the real Japan." I had always been skeptical, but now I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and trepidation. As I reached the platform, I spotted a small cluster of people gathered near the ticket gates. My heart skipped a beat as I recognized the familiar faces of my colleagues from the research lab. We exchanged awkward smiles and hugs, the tension palpable as we said our goodbyes. I felt a pang of sadness as I watched them disappear into the crowd, wondering if I would ever see them again. The train chugged out of the station, carrying me away from the city's concrete jungle and into the rolling hills of the Japanese countryside. As we passed through the suburbs, the skyscrapers gave way to rows of traditional shops and houses, their tiled roofs and wooden shutters a testament to a bygone era. I settled into my seat, letting the rhythmic rocking of the train lull me into a state of relaxation. The scenery outside my window changed from urban sprawl to lush green forests, the leaves a vibrant emerald in the spring sunlight. The air grew fresher, carrying the scent of cherry blossoms and the distant hint of wood smoke. As the train pulled into the small station, I felt a sense of nervous excitement. This was it, so the start of my journey. I gathered my belongings and joined the handful of passengers disembarking onto the platform. The station was small, with only a few benches and a small ticket office. Outside, the village lay nestled in a valley, surrounded by towering mountains and dense forests. I spotted a group of elderly men gathered near the station, their faces creased with age and their eyes twinkling with warmth. They nodded in greeting as I passed, their hands clasped together in a traditional bow. I felt a sense of belonging wash over me as I took in the tranquil beauty of the village. I made my way to the ryokan, a traditional Japanese inn, which was nestled in the heart of the village. The wooden facade was adorned with intricately carved lanterns and a sign bearing the inn's name, Sakura An. The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit foyer with polished wooden floors and a beautiful stone garden. The owner, a kind-eyed woman named Yumi, welcomed me with a warm smile. She showed me to my room, a cozy corner of the inn with a low-slung futon and a window overlooking the garden. As I settled in, the scent of incense and fresh tea wafted through the air, enveloping me in a sense of tranquility. As the sun dipped below the mountains, I took a stroll through the village, taking in the sights and sounds of rural Japan. The villagers were friendly, their faces lighting up with smiles as I passed. I stopped at a small food stall, where the owner offered me a taste of his famous miso soup and a steaming bowl of rice. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, I returned to the ryokan, feeling a sense of contentment wash over me. I slipped into the onsen, the hot spring water, enveloping my exhausted body in a sense of relaxation. The world outside receded, leaving only the gentle lapping of the water against the sides of the pool. As I drifted off to sleep, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. This was it, the beginning of my journey. The journey to the heart of rural Japan, where the seasons changed with the wind and the people lived in harmony with nature. Please let me know if this meets your expectations or if there's anything I can improve. Chapter 2, First Impressions. As I stepped out of the train station, the crisp mountain air enveloped me like a warm hug. I had been traveling for hours, and the thought of finally arriving in the small town of Kusatsu was exhilarating. The station itself was quaint, with a few vending machines and a small ticket counter that seemed to be run by a kindly old man who remembered my name. I made my way to the Ryokan, a traditional Japanese inn where I would be staying for the next few nights. The streets were narrow and winding, lined with shops and restaurants that seemed to be a mix of old and new. I passed by a group of locals gathered around a street performer, mesmerized by the intricate dance of the origami artist. The aroma of freshly baked mochi wafted through the air, enticing me to stop and sample the sweet treat. Upon arrival at the Ryokan, I was greeted by the warm smile of the owner, Mrs. Tanaka. She welcomed me with a bow and offered me a refreshing cup of green tea, which I gratefully accepted. As we sat down in the cozy lobby, she began to tell me about the history of the inn and the town, her eyes sparkling with passion. "The Ryokan has been in our family for generations," she said, her hands moving as she spoke. "My great-grandfather built it with his own 2 hands, and it's been passed down through the years. We've seen many guests come and go, but we've always strived to maintain the traditional way of living." As we chatted, I noticed a group of guests gathered around the fire pit in the courtyard, sipping sake and laughing together. The atmosphere was relaxed and warm, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of belonging. "May I join you?" I asked, feeling a little shy but also curious. Mrs. Tanaka nodded, and I made my way over to the group. They welcomed me with open arms, and soon we were sharing stories and jokes, our laughter echoing through the courtyard. As the evening wore on, I discovered that the Ryokan served a traditional Japanese dinner, complete with sushi, tempura, and a variety of local delicacies. The food was exquisite, and I found myself savoring each bite, feeling grateful for the opportunity to experience this unique culture. The next morning, I woke up early, feeling refreshed and rejuvenated. I decided to take a stroll around the town, exploring the local shops and cafes. The streets were quiet, with only a few early risers out and about. I stopped by a small bakery, where I was greeted by the aroma of freshly baked bread and the warm smile of the baker. "Good morning. Welcome to our little town," she said, offering me a sample of her famous melon pan. As I bit into the soft, fluffy bread, I felt like I was tasting a piece of heaven. It was sweet and buttery, with a hint of saltiness that balanced out the flavors. I couldn't help but feel grateful for this little slice of heaven, nestled in the heart of the Japanese Alps. Over the next few days, I immersed myself in the local culture, attending traditional tea ceremonies, visiting the nearby onsen, and taking long walks through the surrounding forests. The town was alive with the changing of the seasons, and I felt like I was experiencing the very essence of Japan. As I sat on the edge of the onsen, watching the sun set over the mountains, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. This was what I had been searching for, a sense of connection, a sense of community, and a sense of belonging. And as I drifted off to sleep that night, lulled by the sound of the wind rustling through the bamboo, I knew that this was just the beginning of my journey, and that the town of Kusatsu would always hold a special place in my heart. Chapter 3: Ryokan Life. As I stepped off the winding mountain path and onto the tranquil grounds of Ryokan Takashi, the warm glow of the setting sun cast a golden hue over the rustic buildings. The sweet scent of wood smoke and steaming tea wafted through the air, beckoning me to leave the world behind. I felt a deep sense of relaxation wash over me, as if the stresses of the past few days had begun to unravel. Yumi, the owner of the Ryokan, greeted me with a gentle smile, her eyes crinkling at the corners. Her silver hair was styled in a simple yet elegant chignon, and her warm, honey-toned skin seemed to glow in the fading light. She welcomed me with a traditional Japanese bow, her hands folded together in a respectful gesture. "Konnichiwa. Welcome to Ryokan Takashi," she said, her voice like a soft breeze rustling through the trees. "I am Yumi, your host and guide during your stay. Please come in and let me show you to your room." As we walked through the rustic courtyard, I couldn't help but notice the intricate carvings and lacquerwork adorning the walls and furniture. The air was thick with the scent of cedar and sandalwood, transporting me to a world of serenity and tranquility. Yumi led me to my room, a cozy tatami mat space with a shoji screen and a low-backed futon. The room was simple, yet elegant, with a few carefully placed ornaments and a stunning view of the surrounding mountains. I felt as though I had stepped into a different era, one of quiet contemplation and refinement. Over the next few days, I settled into a routine of traditional ryokan stays, waking up each morning to the gentle chime of the temple bell and the soft rustle of leaves outside my window. Yumi would present me with a steaming bowl of matcha tea and a delicate breakfast of grilled fish and steamed rice, which I would enjoy on the veranda while watching the sun rise over the mountains. One evening, Yumi invited me to join her for dinner in the main dining room. The table was set with delicate ceramics and fine linens, and the aroma of sizzling vegetables and savory sauces wafted through the air. We sat down to a feast of local specialties, including a rich, gamey broth served with tender slices of Wagyu beef and a side of steamed lotus root. As we dined, Yumi regaled me with stories of the region's culinary traditions, from the art of sake brewing to the intricacies of kaiseki cuisine. I was fascinated by the attention to detail and the emphasis on using only the freshest, locally sourced ingredients. The following evening, Yumi invited me to join her for a soak in the ryokan's natural hot spring, or onsen. As we made our way to the bathhouse, I couldn't help but feel a sense of trepidation. Would I be able to relax in this unfamiliar environment, surrounded by strangers? But as I slipped into the warm, milky water, all my worries dissipated. The sensation was like nothing I had ever experienced before, as though my very pores were opening up to receive the gentle caress of the water. Yumi joined me, and we chatted softly as we soaked, our conversation punctuated by the occasional splash of water and the soft hum of conversation from the other bathers. As the days passed, I began to notice the subtle changes in the ryokan's atmosphere, as if the very essence of the place was shifting with the seasons. The scent of cedar and sandalwood gave way to the sweet aroma of blooming cherry blossoms, and the sound of temple bells was replaced by the gentle chirping of birds. One morning, I woke to find the courtyard transformed into a winter wonderland, the snow-covered pines and maples glistening like diamonds in the morning sun. Yumi smiled knowingly as I gazed out at the breathtaking view, her eyes sparkling with a sense of wonder and connection to the natural world. As I prepared to leave Ryokan Takashi, I felt a deep sense of gratitude and connection to this place, to Yumi, and to the people who had welcomed me into their world. I knew that I would carry the memories of this traditional ryokan stay with me forever, a reminder of the beauty and tranquility that lay just beyond the edge of our busy, chaotic lives. Chapter 4: Local Cuisine Discovery. As we wandered through the bustling streets of the old town, the aromas of sizzling meats and fresh produce wafted through the air, tantalizing our taste buds and drawing us closer to the local markets. Our ryokan stay had been a serene retreat, but the prospect of immersing ourselves in the local cuisine was too enticing to resist. We had heard whispers of the exceptional quality of the seasonal ingredients, and we were eager to taste the fruits of the region's labor. The first market we stumbled upon was a treasure trove of sensory delights. Colorful stalls overflowed with an assortment of fresh produce, from vibrant bunches of green onions to radiant bunches of cherry blossoms. We wandered down the aisles, taking in the sights and sounds of the bustling market. Every vendor seemed to be vying for our attention, offering samples of their wares and extolling the virtues of their particular specialty. We sampled sweet, succulent strawberries and crunchy, sweet carrots, our senses overwhelmed by the sheer variety of flavors on offer. As we explored the market, we began to notice the dedication and passion of the local artisans. Each vendor seemed to be a master of their craft, honing their skills over generations. We met a gruff but lovable old man who had spent decades perfecting his craft as a soy sauce maker. He offered us a taste of his latest batch, and we were struck by the depth and complexity of the flavors. Another vendor, a young woman with a bright smile, showed us her wares of hand-painted ceramics, each piece a work of art in its own right. As we delved deeper into the market, we began to notice the subtle transformations that took place with each season. The stalls that had once been filled with winter's bounty, apples and pears, were now empty, replaced by the vibrant greens and colourful flowers that heralded spring's arrival. The vendors, too, seemed to be transforming before our eyes, their faces lighting up with excitement as they showcased their latest offerings. We chatted with a wise old man who had spent years working at the market, and he regaled us with stories of the changes he had witnessed over the years. As the sun began to set, we made our way to the onsen, a traditional Japanese hot spring. The warm waters were a welcome respite from the day's explorations, and we spent hours soaking and relaxing, chatting with the other visitors and soaking up the tranquil atmosphere. The onsen was a place of great significance in Japanese culture, a symbol of community and connection. We felt grateful to be experiencing this intimate side of Japanese life, and we knew that this was an experience we would never forget. As we settled into our ryokan for the night, our senses satiated by the day's culinary delights, we couldn't help but reflect on the incredible experiences we had had. From the vibrant markets to the serene onsen, each moment had been a testament to the beauty and complexity of Japanese culture. We knew that this was just the beginning of our journey, and we couldn't wait to see what the next day would bring. Chapter 5: Onsen Odyssey. As we wound our way through the lush green hills, the rustic charm of the Japanese countryside unfolded before us. Our destination was a centuries-old onsen, nestled deep in the mountains. The GPS led us down a narrow, winding road flanked by bamboo groves and wispy cherry blossom trees. The scent of wood smoke and incense wafted through the air, beckoning us towards the tranquility that lay ahead. We arrived at the onsen just as the sun began to dip behind the hills, casting a warm golden glow over the surroundings. The traditional ryokan, with its tiled roof and weathered wooden facade, seemed to blend seamlessly into the natural landscape. As we stepped inside, the sound of gentle chatter and the soft clinking of teacups enveloped us, transporting us to a world of serenity. Our host, the warm and welcoming Oyado-san, greeted us with a bow and a warm smile. He led us to the dining room, where a sumptuous spread of local delicacies awaited us. We indulged in steaming bowls of kaiseki, savoring the subtle flavors of fresh vegetables, seafood, and locally harvested rice. Each bite was a masterclass in harmony, a symphony of textures and tastes that left us in awe. As we dined, the silence was punctuated only by the soft lapping of water against the edge of the onsen's hot spring-fed pool. The aromas wafting from the kitchen mingled with the scent of incense, creating a heady mixture that tantalized our senses. After dinner, we made our way to the onsen, our anticipation building with each step. The wooden door slid open, revealing a serene oasis bathed in soft golden light. The water, a perfect balance of warmth and coolness, enveloped us like a gentle hug. We surrendered to the tranquility, our worries melting away with each passing moment. As we soaked, the sounds of nature, the chirping of crickets, the rustling of leaves, voices created a soothing melody, harmonizing with the gentle lapping of the water. It was as if the universe itself was conspiring to calm our minds and rejuvenate our spirits. The onsen, a cornerstone of Japanese culture, was more than just a place to bathe. It was a sanctuary, a place where the boundaries between body and soul blurred. Here we found solace in the simplicity and elegance of the traditional ryokan, the warmth of the hot springs, and the gentle hospitality of our hosts. As we made our way back to the ryokan, the stars twinkling above us like diamonds, we couldn't help but feel grateful for this fleeting glimpse into Japan's rich cultural heritage. The onsen, a symbol of the country's deep connection with nature, had left an indelible mark on our hearts. As we settled into our rooms, the sound of wind rustling through the trees outside created a soothing lullaby. We drifted off to sleep, our dreams infused with the gentle rhythms of the onsen and the whispers of the Japanese countryside. When we awoke the next morning, the world outside had transformed. The cherry blossoms had burst into bloom, their delicate petals fluttering in the breeze like snowflakes. We stepped out into the crisp morning air, the scent of blooming flowers enveloping us like a warm hug. The onsen, now bathed in the soft golden light of dawn, beckoned us once more. And as we made our way back to the hot springs, we knew that this was just the beginning of our onsen odyssey, a journey that would take us deeper into the heart of Japan's rich cultural heritage. Chapter 6: Village Secrets. As I stepped out of the ryokan's sliding doors, the crisp autumn air enveloped me, carrying the sweet scent of ripe persimmons and the distant hum of cicadas. The village lay before me, a tapestry of traditional architecture and lush greenery. I felt a thrill of excitement, knowing that today would be a day of discovery. My host, the wise and kind Okami-san, had shared rumors of a hidden onsen tucked away in the village's winding alleys. I set out to find it, following the scent of hot water and the whispers of locals. The search led me through bustling streets, past ancient temples, and into a narrow passageway where a discreet sign read Tsuki no Yusu Moonlight Onsen. As I entered the onsen, the warm light of lanterns illuminated the serene atmosphere. The air was thick with the scent of cedar and the soft babble of water. I slipped off my shoes and stepped into the pool, feeling the soothing heat envelop my chilled skin.
Oh, Kami-san had been right. This was a hidden gem, a true village secret.
After my rejuvenating soak, I made my way to the village market, eager to sample the local cuisine. The stalls were a kaleidoscope of colors, with vibrant produce, artisanal cheeses, and an assortment of spices. I stopped at a stall overflowing with fresh seafood, where the vendor, a jovial man named Taro, offered me a taste of his prized catch, grilled octopus, with a drizzle of sake and soy sauce. As I savored the dish, Taro regaled me with stories of the village's fishing traditions and the importance of respecting the ocean's bounty. I listened intently, fascinated by the rich cultural heritage and the sense of community that permeated every aspect of village life. Later that evening, I made my way to the village's main onsen, where I had been invited to join the locals for a traditional onsen experience. As I entered the bathing area, I was struck by the sense of tranquility that enveloped me. The onsen's wooden deck was dotted with lanterns, casting a warm glow over the scene. The villagers, young and old, moved with ease, their conversations hushed and their laughter gentle. I watched, mesmerized, as they scrubbed each other's backs, sharing stories and secrets as they went. It was clear that the onsen was more than just a place to bathe. It was a hub of community and connection. As the days passed, I found myself growing more and more attuned to the village's rhythms. The air was crisp and cool, carrying the scent of ripe persimmons and the distant hum of cicadas. I marveled at the way the seasons seemed to transform the village, as if by magic. The once lush greenery had given way to a tapestry of autumn hues with leaves of gold, crimson, and amber rustling in the gentle breeze. One morning, I awoke to find the village blanketed in a thick layer of snow. The sudden transformation was breathtaking, as if the very earth itself had been transformed into a winter wonderland. I ventured out, bundled up against the cold, and wandered through the silent streets, taking in the beauty of the season. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the snow-covered village, I knew that I had finally uncovered the secrets of this enchanting place. The villagers, with their warm hospitality and rich cultural heritage, had welcomed me into their fold, sharing their stories and traditions with me. And as I stood there, surrounded by the quiet beauty of the village, I knew that I would carry these memories with me forever. Chapter 7. Yumi's Story. Yumi's journey to becoming the owner of the renowned ryokan, Kokoro, began long before she ever set foot in the tranquil mountains of Japan. Growing up in a small coastal town, Yumi was always fascinated by the stories her grandmother told about the ancient art of hospitality. Her Oba-chan would regale her with tales of the ryokans that dotted the Japanese countryside, where weary travelers would find solace in warm baths, delicious meals, and comforting company. As a young girl, Yumi would spend hours poring over cookbooks and watching cooking shows, dreaming of the day she could create her own culinary masterpieces. Her parents, though skeptical of her aspirations, encouraged her to pursue her passion. Yumi's mother, a talented seamstress, even taught her the art of traditional Japanese clothing making, which would later become a vital part of the ryokan's unique charm. After completing culinary school, Yumi left her hometown to hone her skills in some of Tokyo's top restaurants. She worked tirelessly, taking on any job that would give her the experience she craved. Her big break came when she was hired as a sous chef at a prestigious ryokan in Kyoto. For 5 years, Yumi learned the intricacies of traditional Japanese cuisine, studying under the guidance of master chefs and soaking up the rich cultural heritage of the region. But Yumi's ultimate goal was to open her own ryokan, where she could share her love of Japanese hospitality with the world. She saved every penny, scoured the countryside for the perfect location, and finally found Kokoro, a small rustic inn nestled in the mountains. With the help of her friends and family, Yumi transformed the property into a haven of tranquility where guests could immerse themselves in the beauty of nature and the warmth of Japanese culture. However, Yumi's journey was not without its challenges. The ryokan's remote location made it difficult to attract guests, and Yumi struggled to balance her desire for authenticity with the need to cater to modern tastes. She faced criticism from some guests who found the traditional ways of the ryokan too alien or uncomfortable. Through it all, Yumi remained steadfast, convinced that her vision of a peaceful oasis was worth fighting for. One of Yumi's greatest strengths was her ability to connect with her guests on a deep level. She would often sit with them at dinner, sharing stories of her own childhood and listening to their tales of adventure and struggle. Her warmth and empathy created a sense of community, making each guest feel like they were part of a larger family. As the seasons changed, Yumi continued to refine her craft, experimenting with new recipes and techniques while staying true to the traditional roots of Japanese cuisine. She developed a passion for foraging, scouring the surrounding forests for wild herbs and mushrooms to incorporate into her dishes. Her love of nature and dedication to sustainability earned her a reputation as one of the most innovative and eco-friendly ryokan owners in the region. Years of hard work and perseverance finally paid off when Kokoro began to attract visitors from around the world. Yumi's ryokan became a hub for travelers, seeking a unique and immersive experience, one that would allow them to connect with the natural world and the rich cultural heritage of Japan. As she looked out over the tranquil gardens, Yumi knew that she had finally achieved her dream, creating a place where people could come to relax, recharge, and rediscover themselves. As the sun dipped below the mountains, casting a golden glow over the ryokan, Yumi sat down to a simple but satisfying meal, surrounded by the people and the place she loved. Though her journey had been long and arduous, she knew that every struggle and setback had been worth it. For in the end, it was not just a business or a passion project, it was a way of life, one that would continue to nourish and inspire generations to come. Chapter 8. The Main Character's Reflections. I sat on the tatami mat, surrounded by the serene silence of the traditional ryokan. The soft creaking of the wooden floor beneath my feet was the only sound that broke the stillness. I had spent the evening immersing myself in the local cuisine, savoring each bite of the delicate sushi and the rich, savory broth of the hot pot. But it was the moment, sitting alone in this peaceful space, that I realized the true art of slowing down. As I gazed out the window, the snowflakes gently falling onto the garden, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. It was as if the world outside had slowed down, and I was finally able to catch up. The ryokan's tranquil atmosphere was a balm to my weary soul, a reminder that sometimes the greatest treasures in life are the simple, quiet moments. I thought back to the countless meals I had eaten in my life, the countless conversations I had had, and the countless places I had been. And yet, here I was in this small, unassuming ryokan, feeling more at peace than I had in years. It was as if I had finally stopped running, finally stopped trying to cram as much as possible into every moment, and had begun to truly live. I thought about the people I had met on this journey, the stories they had shared, and the lessons they had taught me. The wise old man who had shown me the beauty of simplicity, the young woman who had introduced me to the art of mindfulness, and the chef who had taught me the importance of patience and dedication. Each of them had played a role in my journey of self-discovery, and I was grateful for their presence in my life. As I sat there, lost in thought, I felt the room begin to fade away, and I was transported to the snow-covered mountainside outside. The air was crisp and cold, and the silence was almost palpable. I closed my eyes, breathed in deeply, and let the power of nature wash over me. In that moment, I felt a sense of connection to something greater than myself. I felt a sense of belonging to this world, to this land, and to the people who called it home. I felt a sense of peace, a sense of calm, and a sense of purpose. As I sat there, surrounded by the beauty of nature, I realized that I had been carrying around a heavy burden for far too long. I had been carrying around the weight of my own expectations, the weight of other people's opinions, and the weight of my own fears, and in that moment I knew that I had to let go. I thought about all the things I had been holding on to, all the things I had been clinging to for dear life. I thought about the relationships that had become toxic, the jobs that had become unfulfilling, and the goals that had become outdated. And I knew that it was time to let go. As I sat there, surrounded by the silence of the ryokan, I knew that I had to start over. I had to start fresh, start new, and start anew. I had to let go of the past, let go of the present, and start anew. I thought about all the things I wanted to do, all of the things I wanted to say, and all the things I wanted to achieve. And I knew that it was time to start taking action. I had to start taking small steps, start taking big risks, and start taking leaps of faith. As I sat there, surrounded by the beauty of the ryokan, I knew that the journey ahead would be long and winding. I knew that there would be ups and downs, twists and turns, and moments of joy and moments of sorrow. But I also knew that I was ready. I was ready to take the leap, to start anew, and to embark on the journey of a lifetime. I was ready to leave the past behind, to let go of the present, and to start anew. And I was ready to see where the journey would take me. As I stood up to leave the ryokan, I felt a sense of peace, a sense of calm, and a sense of purpose. I knew that I had been changed forever, that I had been transformed by the power of nature, and that I had been reborn. And I knew that the journey ahead would be filled with beauty, filled with wonder, and filled with the promise of a new beginning. Chapter 9. The Village's History. As we sat on the creaky wooden floor, sipping steaming cups of matcha, our host, Hero, began to regale us with tales of the village's storied past. The air was thick with the aroma of freshly baked mochi wafting from the adjacent kitchen, where Hero's wife, Yumi, was busy preparing the evening's dinner. The soft glow of the lanterns illuminated the rustic interior of the ryokan, casting a warm, inviting ambience over our small gathering. Hiro's eyes sparkled as he recounted the story of the village's founding. It was a small group of samurai seeking refuge from the tumultuous world beyond our mountains, he said, his voice low and gravelly. They arrived in the early 1600s, bringing with them their skills and traditions. Over time, the village grew, and the samurai's wisdom was passed down through generations, shaping our unique culture and way of life. As Hero spoke, I couldn't help but think of the countless stories hidden within these ancient walls. The creaking of the wooden floorboards seemed to whisper secrets, and the flickering lanterns danced like tiny flames, illuminating the path to forgotten memories. Yumi, our hostess, entered the room carrying a steaming tray of small, delicate bowls. "Tonight we'll enjoy a traditional onsen-inspired dinner," she announced, her smile warm and welcoming. The village's natural hot springs have been a sacred part of our lives for centuries, and our cuisine has evolved to incorporate their healing properties. As we savoured the delicate flavours and textures of the dishes, Hero continued his tale, weaving a narrative that intertwined the village's history with the onsen culture. The villagers believed that the hot springs held mystical powers, cleansing not only the body, but also the mind and soul. Our traditional baths, or onsen, were built to harness these energies, and our daily routines revolved around these sacred rituals. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm orange glow over the village, Hero led us on a stroll through the streets, pointing out the subtle changes that marked each season. We marvelled at the vibrant autumn foliage, the delicate cherry blossoms of spring, and the rustic charm of winter's snow-covered landscape. With each step, the village seemed to come alive, its secrets and stories unfolding like a tapestry. As night fell, we returned to the ryokan, where the soft glow of the lanterns enveloped us once more. Hiro and Yumi greeted us with warm smiles, inviting us to join them for a traditional Japanese tea ceremony. The air was thick with the scent of incense, and the soft golden light of the candles cast a tranquil ambience over the room. As we sipped the steaming tea, I felt a deep sense of connection to this ancient place, its people, and its timeless traditions. In that moment, I realized that the village's history was not just a collection of dusty facts and figures. It was a living, breathing entity, woven into the very fabric of daily life. As we prepared to depart the ryokan the following morning, I knew that the village's stories would stay with me forever, a reminder of the power of tradition, community, and the human spirit. Chapter 10. Spring Awakening. The sweet scent of blooming cherry blossoms wafted through the crisp spring air, signaling the awakening of the village from its winter slumber. As the sun rose over the thatched roofs, the once dormant landscape transformed into a vibrant tapestry of colors, textures, and sounds. For Emiko, The arrival of spring meant a fresh start. She had spent the winter months cooped up in her ryokan, tending to the fire and the guests, but now she couldn't wait to venture out and explore the village anew. She slipped on her getter sandals and stepped outside, breathing in the invigorating air as the warm rays of the sun danced across her skin. As she strolled through the village, Emiko noticed the subtle changes that had taken place during the winter. The streets, once quiet and deserted, now bustled with activity. The sound of hammering and sawing echoed from the local craftsmen's workshops, where they were busy preparing for the upcoming festivals. The air was filled with the sweet aroma of freshly baked bread wafting from the bakery, enticing the villagers with the promise of warm, crispy loaves. Emiko made her way to the ryokan, her footsteps leading her to the cozy tatami mat rooms where guests would soon arrive to experience the traditional Japanese hospitality. She had spent countless hours perfecting the art of serving tea, and her fingers moved with precision as she poured steaming cups for the early risers. The aroma of green tea leaves mingled with the scent of cherry blossoms, creating a sense of tranquility that enveloped the guests like a warm blanket. As the day progressed, Emiko's thoughts turned to the culinary delights that spring brought. She decided to pay a visit to the local market, where the vendors were busy arranging their wares. The vibrant colors of the fresh produce, the emerald green of asparagus, the radiant orange of carrots, and the delicate pink of strawberries seemed to dance before her eyes. Emiko's stomach growled with anticipation as she sampled the seasonal delicacies, her taste buds reveling in the explosion of flavors and textures. After a morning of exploring, Emiko made her way to the onsen, the village's sacred hot springs. The warm water enveloped her like a gentle hug, soothing her muscles and calming her mind. As she soaked, she couldn't help but feel a sense of connection to the village's history and culture, which seemed to seep from the very pores of the ancient stones. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the village, Emiko felt a sense of gratitude wash over her. Spring had brought new life to the village, and with it a sense of renewal and rejuvenation. The once dormant landscape had awakened, and with it the villagers' spirits had lifted. Emiko smiled, knowing that this was the true magic of the ryokan, not just the traditional stays or the local cuisine, but the sense of community and connection that spring brought to the village. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Emiko returned to her ryokan, her heart full of the village's beauty and her senses satiated by the wonders of the spring season. She drifted off to sleep, lulled by the sound of the wind rustling through the cherry blossom trees, her dreams infused with the promise of a new beginning. Chapter 11. Summer Festivals. As we wandered through the bustling streets of Takayama, the sweet aroma of grilled corn and the rhythmic beats of traditional drums filled the air, drawing us closer to the heart of the city's summer festival. The sun beat down upon us, but the excitement and energy of the crowd only grew more palpable with each passing moment. We had arrived in Takayama just a few days prior, and our ryokan stay had been nothing short of enchanting. The traditional Japanese inn, with its tatami matted rooms and sliding paper screens, had transported us to a bygone era. Our hosts, the kindly elderly couple who owned the ryokan, had gone above and beyond to welcome us with open arms, serving us steaming bowls of matcha and delicate pastries in the morning, and regaling us with stories of the region's rich history in the evenings. One of the highlights of our stay had been the opportunity to sample some of the local cuisine, a culinary experience that had left us in awe. We had devoured plate after plate of fresh sashimi, each piece expertly prepared and presented with precision and flair. We had marveled at the vibrant colors and intoxicating aromas of the bustling markets, where vendors sold everything from fragrant rice balls to succulent skewers of grilled meat. and we had indulged in the creamy, buttery richness of Takayama's famous Haida beef, savoring each bite with reverence. As we made our way through the festival crowds, we couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder at the onsen culture that permeated every aspect of Japanese life. The public baths, with their steaming hot waters and tranquil atmosphere, seemed to be a staple of daily life, a place where strangers became friends and worries were left at the door. We had experienced it firsthand during our stay at the ryokan, where the hot springs had been a welcome respite from the summer heat. And now, as we immersed ourselves in the vibrant colors and sounds of the festival, we felt grateful for the opportunity to experience this unique aspect of Japanese culture. As we explored the festival, we couldn't help but notice the subtle yet profound changes that had taken place since our arrival in Takayama. The once lush green hills had given way to fields of golden wheat, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of ripening fruit. The weather, too, had undergone a transformation, with the hot summer sun giving way to gentle breezes and cool, crisp nights. It was as if the very essence of the season had been distilled into these fleeting moments, and we felt blessed to be a part of it. As we delved deeper into the festival, the sounds and smells grew more intense, and the crowds grew thicker. We laughed and chatted with the locals, who welcomed us with open arms, eager to share their traditions and way of life. We watched in awe as the taiko drummers pounded out their rhythmic beats, their faces set in determined concentration. And we sampled the delectable street food, from crispy tempura bits to sweet, sticky mochi. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the festival took on a magical quality, the twinkling lights and lanterns casting a warm, golden glow over the entire scene. We found a spot to sit and watch the festivities, surrounded by the sounds and smells of the summer festival. It was a night to remember, one that would stay with us long after our departure from Takayama. And as we gazed out at the sea of faces, we knew that this summer festival, with all its vibrant colors and sounds, would remain etched in our memories forever. Chapter 12. Autumn Harvest. As the sun dipped below the rolling hills, the village of Akakawa transformed into a canvas of warm oranges, fiery reds, and golden yellows. The once green rice fields now rippled with waves of autumn's palette, as if the very earth itself was set aflame. The air was crisp, carrying the sweet scent of ripe fruits and the earthy aroma of fallen leaves. At the ryokan, our group gathered around the low table, the soft glow of lanterns casting a warm ambience over the worn tatami mats. We had spent the day exploring the nearby town, sampling local delicacies and marveling at the vibrant autumn colors. Tonight, we would indulge in a traditional kaiseki dinner, a culinary journey through the seasons. As we took our seats, the chef, a stout man with a bushy beard, emerged from the kitchen, his eyes twinkling with pride. The first course, a delicate soup made from the freshest vegetables and herbs, was a symphony of flavors and textures. We savored each spoonful, the steam rising to mingle with the fragrance of incense and the soft chatter of our companions. Next came the main course, a dish of grilled fish, its flaky flesh infused with the subtle essence of sesame and soy sauce. We passed bowls of steaming rice, and the soft murmur of conversation grew louder as we savored each bite and shared stories of our travels. As the night wore on, the chef presented us with a sweet treat, a plate of fresh fruit, its sweetness tempered by the subtle tang of yuzu. We lingered over our dessert, the silence broken only by the gentle clinking of cups and the occasional snort of laughter. As the evening drew to a close, we made our way to the onsen, the hot spring baths that lay at the heart of the ryokan. The air was thick with the scent of cedar and the soft murmur of running water. We slipped beneath the surface, the warmth enveloping our weary bodies like a gentle hug. As we floated, our eyes closed, the village outside began to transform, the stars twinkling like diamonds in the night sky, the wind rustling through the rice fields, and the distant calls of birds echoing through the valley. It was as if the very essence of autumn had seeped into the onsen, imbuing us with a sense of peace and tranquility. As we emerged from the onsen, the night sky was ablaze with the full harvest moon, its silvery light casting an ethereal glow over the village. We wrapped ourselves in yucatas, the soft fabric rustling against our skin, and made our way to the ryokan's garden. The air was filled with the sweet scent of chrysanthemums, their delicate petals swaying in the gentle breeze. We wandered through the garden, our footsteps quiet on the gravel path, as we absorbed the beauty of the autumn night. As we gazed up at the harvest moon, our thoughts turned to the changing seasons and to the fleeting nature of life, and the beauty that lay in the cyclical rhythms of nature. And as we stood there, bathed in the soft light of the moon, we knew that this autumn harvest, like all the seasons that had come before, would forever be etched in our hearts and minds. Chapter 13. Winter Solace. As I walked through the village, the crisp winter air stung my cheeks, and the silence seemed to swallow me whole. The snow-covered mountains loomed in the distance, their rugged peaks, a reminder of the season's beauty and brutality. I had grown accustomed to the ryokan's warmth, where the scent of tatami and wood smoke enveloped me like a cozy blanket. Today, I sought solace in the village, hoping to find a sense of belonging among its residents. I pushed open the door to the local bakery, and the aroma of freshly baked bread enveloped me. The baker, an elderly woman with a kind face, greeted me with a warm smile. "Ah, welcome back, traveller. I have just the thing for a cold winter's day." She handed me a steaming hot pastry filled with sweet, sticky rice and red bean paste. I closed my eyes, savouring the flavours and textures, feeling the warmth spread through my chest. Over the next few days, I explored the village's culinary delights, discovering hidden gems in the form of small, family-run restaurants and food stalls. There was the tempura shop, where the owner, a gentle giant with a bushy beard, fried the most exquisite seafood and vegetables in a light, crispy batter. Then there was the yakiniku restaurant, where I devoured tender, grilled meats served with a side of savoury sauces and steaming hot rice. One evening, I stumbled upon a small, unassuming food stall tucked away in a quiet alley. The sign above the stall read Otto's Sweet Delights, and the aroma of melting sugar and caramel wafted through the air. Otto, a young woman with a bright smile and a mischievous glint in her eye, offered me a sample of her famous handmade chocolates. The rich, velvety texture and deep, dark flavours melted in my mouth, leaving me wanting more. As the days passed, the cold winter air began to seep into my bones, and I found myself longing for the warmth and relaxation of the onsen. I made my way to the village's public baths, where I was greeted by the owner, a wise elderly man named Hiro. He showed me to the men's section, where I immersed myself in the steaming hot waters, feeling the tension and stress melt away. As I soaked, I noticed an elderly couple, their wrinkled hands clasped together, their eyes closed in contemplation. They seemed to be savouring the moment, enjoying the simple pleasure of being together in the warm, peaceful environment. I felt a pang of envy, wishing I had someone to share these moments with. As the winter solstice approached, the village underwent a transformation. The snow-covered mountains seemed to glow with an otherworldly light, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming camellias. The villagers, too, seemed to undergo a change, their faces brightening with the promise of longer days and warmer temperatures. One afternoon, I stumbled upon a group of children playing in the snow, their laughter and shouts carrying through the crisp air. They were building a magnificent snowman, complete with a carrot nose and coal eyes. I watched, mesmerized, as they worked together, their smiles and giggles infectious. As the sun began to set, I made my way back to the ryokan, feeling a sense of peace and contentment wash over me. The villagers had welcomed me with open arms, sharing their culture, their food, and their warmth. In this small, secluded village, I had found a sense of belonging, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always beauty to be found. Chapter 14. New Connections. As I settled into the traditional ryokan, the scent of tatami mats and incense wafted through the air, transporting me to a world beyond the bustling streets of Tokyo. The rustic charm of the inn, with its creaking wooden floors and paper-thin walls, felt like a warm hug, enveloping me in its tranquility. My host, the gentle-eyed Mrs. Tanaka, welcomed me with a warm smile, her hands adorned with intricate lacquerware. She ushered me into the dining area, where a steaming hot pot of miso soup awaited. The aroma of simmering dashi broth and the sound of sizzling vegetables on the grill filled the air, tantalizing my senses. Mrs. Tanaka presented me with a delicate ceramic bowl, and I savored each spoonful of the savory broth, feeling the warmth spread through my body. As the meal concluded, Mrs. Tanaka sat beside me, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. We spoke of the seasons, of the changing colors of the maple trees, and the delicate petal-like blooms of the cherry blossoms. She shared stories of her own childhood, of playing in the bamboo forests and catching fireflies on summer evenings. I listened intently, mesmerized by the simplicity and depth of her words. Later that evening, Mrs. Tanaka escorted me to the onsen, a natural hot spring nestled among the towering cedars. The air was crisp, with a hint of cedarwood and the soft chirping of crickets. As I submerged myself in the warm waters, I felt the tension melt away, replaced by a sense of serenity. Mrs. Tanaka joined me, her eyes sparkling with mirth, and we chatted as we soaked, our voices carried away by the gentle breeze. The next morning, I awoke to the sound of birdsong and the soft rustling of leaves. The ryokan's courtyard, once a tranquil oasis, had transformed overnight. A carpet of golden kayo leaves, like 1,000 tiny lanterns, blanketed the grounds, glistening in the morning sun. Mrs. Tanaka smiled knowingly, as if to say, "Ah, the magic of autumn has arrived." As the days passed, I found myself drawn to the gentle rhythms of rural life. Mrs. Tanaka and her family welcomed me into their fold, sharing stories of their ancestors and the history of the ryokan. I felt a deep connection to this land, to the people who had lived and worked here for generations. It was as if the very essence of Japan had seeped into my pores, infusing me with a sense of belonging. One evening, as I sat on the ryokan's veranda, watching the stars twinkle to life, I realized that my initial perceptions of Japan had been turned upside down. The country, once a whirlwind of neon lights and concrete, had revealed its softer side, the quiet beauty of the countryside, the warmth of its people, and the profound connection to nature. I felt grateful for this unexpected journey, one that had awakened a deeper understanding of this enchanting land and its people. As I drifted off to sleep, lulled by the distant chirping of crickets, I knew that this chapter in my life had come to a close. Yet the memories of this tranquil ryokan, the gentle eyes of Mrs. Tanaka, and the rustic charm of the countryside would stay with me forever, a reminder of the beauty that lay just beyond the bustling streets of Tokyo. Chapter 15. The Road Ahead. The village of Akakawa was bathed in the golden light of dawn, the snow-capped mountains in the distance glistening like 1,000 tiny diamonds. The air was crisp, with a hint of wood smoke and the promise of a new day. I stood at the edge of the village, my feet bare and my kimono wrapped tightly around me, the cold seeping into my bones. I had been in Akakawa for what felt like an eternity, and yet I still couldn't shake the feeling that I was just a visitor, a guest, a traveller, not a resident. The villagers had welcomed me with open arms, sharing their stories, their traditions and their food. But I knew that I couldn't stay forever. The question was, when would I leave? As I stood there, the wind rustling my hair, I thought about all of the things I would miss about this place. The way the snowflakes fell gently from the sky, each one unique and fleeting. The sound of the river running through the village, its gentle gurgling, a constant hum in the background. The smell of wood smoke and incense wafting from the ryokans and filling the air with warmth and comfort. But I also thought about the things I would miss about my old life. The familiarity of the streets, the comfort of my own bed, the ease of walking into a store and buying whatever I needed. The question was, which was more important? The comfort of the unknown or the comfort of the familiar? I took a deep breath, feeling the cold air fill my lungs. I thought about all the things I had learned in Akakawa. The way to make a perfect cup of matcha, the secret to cooking the perfect bowl of ramen, the art of finding peace in the stillness of the onsen. I thought about the people I had met, the stories they had told me, and the laughter we had shared. And then I thought about the future. What lay ahead for me? Would I find a new sense of purpose in the city, or would I remain stuck in the past? Would I find a new sense of belonging, or would I remain a stranger in a strange land? I looked up at the mountains, feeling the weight of my decision bearing down on me. Stay or leave? The question echoed in my mind like a mantra, each repetition a reminder of the uncertainty that lay ahead. As I stood there, the wind began to pick up, blowing through the village with a gentle force. I felt a sense of calm wash over me, as if the mountains themselves were speaking to me, urging me to make a decision. And in that moment, I knew what I had to do. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my decision lift off my shoulders. I would stay. I would stay in Akakawa, and I would make the most of this chance to discover who I was and who I wanted to be. As I turned to make my way back to the ryokan, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. I knew that the road ahead would be long and winding, but I was ready to take the first step. And as I walked, the wind at my back, I felt the mountains watching over me, guiding me towards a future filled with possibility and promise. Epilogue, Departure and Reflection. As I walked out of the ryokan, the crisp morning air hit me like a gentle slap on the face. The sun was already high, casting a warm glow over the village. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs with the scent of cherry blossoms and freshly baked bread wafting from the nearby bakery. The once quaint streets were now bustling with villagers preparing for the day, their chatter and laughter carrying on the breeze. I paused, taking in the familiar sights and sounds one last time. The village, once a stranger to me, had become a second home. I thought about all the moments I'd shared with the villagers, the late-night conversations with Kaito, the laughter with Yumi, and the quiet moments with Emiko. Each memory was etched in my mind like the intricate designs on the handmade ceramics I'd collected. I made my way to the onsen, the hot springs that had become a sanctuary for me. The water was warm and soothing, enveloping me in its comforting embrace. As I sat there, I felt the stress and fatigue of my journey melt away, replaced by a sense of gratitude and accomplishment. I closed my eyes, allowing the silence to wash over me. Thoughts of my life before this journey began to surface, the monotony of my daily routine, the sense of disconnection from the world around me. And then The memories of this journey flooded in at the vibrant markets, the stunning landscapes, and the people who had touched my heart. I thought about the local cuisine I'd grown to love, the sweetness of the matcha, the savory flavors of the soba noodles, and the richness of the wagyu beef. I remembered the first time I'd tried the traditional Japanese breakfast with its delicate eggs, pickled vegetables, and steaming bowls of rice. The villagers had taught me to appreciate the simplicity and elegance of their culinary traditions. As I sat there, I noticed the subtle changes in the onsen's atmosphere. The water was warmer now, reflecting the increasing temperatures outside. The once green foliage was giving way to the vibrant hues of autumn, the golden leaves, the crimson maples, and the amber grasses. It was as if the season itself was reflecting the transformation within me. I eventually emerged from the onsen, feeling refreshed and renewed. I knew it was time to leave the village, but the thought of saying goodbye to this place and the people who had become like family to me was bittersweet. I made my way back to the ryokan, where Kaito and Yumi were waiting for me. We shared a final meal together, savoring the flavors and memories of our time together. As we parted ways, I thanked them for their hospitality, their wisdom, and their friendship. As I walked away from the village, I felt a sense of excitement and trepidation. What lay ahead? What new experiences, challenges, and opportunities awaited me? The world was vast and unpredictable, but I was no longer the same person who had arrived in this small village months ago. I took one last look at the village, the onsen, and the ryokan, knowing that a part of me would always remain here. And as I disappeared into the distance, I felt the gentle breeze whispering words of encouragement, reminding me that the journey was far from over and the best was yet to come.